The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? The reviewer is supposed to cover the drama, not be the drama. Amber and Scott discuss the critic and what they would do if involved in the high-stakes world of newspaper critiques. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Well, once you have tasted immortality, you will apparently do anything to hang on to it.
So this episode, we are talking about The Critic. It's the story of a powerful London theater critic who lures a struggling actress into a blackmail scheme with deadly consequences. Hello?
Yeah, sorry. Well, I was trying to think how to respond to that because I hadn't read that. I mean, she kind of helped herself get lured into it, though, like, I don't know.
So our characters here, our critic is Jimmy, and our actress is Nina.
Yeah, I mean, Nina was very vocal about seeking Jimmy's approval, very vocal about it.
Right, because she was an actress who had gotten bad review after bad review from Jimmy, and she grew up reading his column and was inspired to become an actress. And so not only did she just take it really hard when she got a bad review, but especially from him in the column that she had grown up reading.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not going to say she was at fault at all, but she definitely did enough to put herself in that position.
Okay, so let's take a step back here and fill in our readers. So Jimmy was a theater critic for a family newspaper, and they wanted everyone to be above board, follow the law, not draw attention to themselves in a non-family way. And Jimmy, our critic, was homosexual during a time that was not something people talked about. And he was caught doing, even though he wasn't really doing anything wrong, it looked like a compromising situation with his male secretary.
Yeah, like by 2024 standards, nothing. He was doing nothing.
Yeah.
By 1932 standards, roughly, I'm guessing, it was probably a little more than nothing.
Yeah, so he and his secretary, Tom, were bailed out, and basically Jimmy was told that he would be retiring, and he had a month left with the paper. And obviously, Jimmy's lifestyle had been greatly enhanced by living the life of a theater critic. He got to go to restaurants he wouldn't get to go to, and plays and parties and dinners, and had grown accustomed to a very nice life.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those situations. I sort of likened it in my mind to an Olympic athlete, where because you've done that, you have so many doors that have opened to you, but the one door that doesn't really get opened is your bank account.
Yeah, and Jimmy had said something like he gets to live a king's life on a pauper salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we then see Jimmy trying to figure out how to salvage his career and maintain his lifestyle, and he ends up bringing in Nina, the actress who he had given bad reviews to, and long story short, gives her a good review, gets some leverage over her, and then entices her with even more good reviews and a lavish, inspiring career of a superstar with his support if she does one thing, and that is sleep with the guy in charge of the paper who made him retire.
I'm still trying to figure out if the way he went was improv off the rails or if that was his goal to begin with.
What do you mean?
Well, because he told Nina he wanted Nina to basically keep pleasuring him, and she didn't want to do it.
After she had done it the first time.
So, yes, I don't know if his plan was originally to basically make him just so happy, and then he reveals that he's partially happy because he's the one that made it happen, thus you should let me keep my job. Or if what happened was the actual intention all along of, okay, now we're just going to blackmail you. And
so after that first time that Nina sleeps with the newspaper owner or publisher, goes back to Jimmy the Critic and says, I can't do that again. I won't do that again. And Jimmy quickly adapts, goes to see him, and says, I have all these letters to your wife, to your daughter, telling everyone what you've done. Unless you rehire me, give me a good contract, give me a raise, and we make this whole retirement thing go bye-bye.
And put me in the portrait, damn it.
Yes, there's a portrait of 12 most distinguished men in the city or something like that he wants to be a part of. So at this point, we have two characters who want to live a life that can be bought in some way. She is basically willing to sleep with someone to have this promise of a lavish, exciting career with the support of Jimmy, our theater critic. And Jimmy, our theater critic, is going to be reinstated to his place of prestige at dinners and parties because Nina's going to help him get his job back.
And the funny thing is if Nina had known that he was going to lose his job, then she probably would have been like, well, screw you. I don't need your reviews. You're not even going to be there anymore.
Yeah, so there's a lot more to this film, but let's go ahead and dig in and do what we do here. And what would you do? So you're an ambitious guy. We've talked about your drive, and as a content creator, your desire to be someone in certain industries and have that recognition. How far would you go if given the opportunity? Oh, wait. One bit of information before we jump in here. Fast forward to the end. The publisher of the newspaper ends up shooting himself because he is just so distraught over what has happened. And the actress, Nina, threatens to tell the cops, the newspapers, her role in this, and therefore involving Jimmy and telling what Jimmy did. And Jimmy kills Nina, the actress, spoiler, and then Jimmy submerges Nina in a tub, and he has his life back for a short while until his male secretary, Tom, turns him in and he goes to jail. So that's how everything plays out here. So now back to our question.
Could you please repeat the question?
Where is your line? What is your limit? What would you do for fame and fortune and recognition and stardom?
I mean, you have to be willing to scratch some backs, for sure, to make things happen, unless you just get really, really lucky. And in fairness, I mean, I've always joked I had my 15 minutes when I was like 22 or 23 in a certain community, and I did actually get lucky. I didn't have to really scratch backs. I was able to get to where I got to on merit, and it's really nice when you're in that position.
Right.
But it also sucks when you're out of it. That's why I kind of opened with the once you've tasted immortality, you'll do just about anything to get it back.
Well, when you said immortality, I thought you were going to imply that this was somehow bat and vampire related. Because no one's immortal here. They're just striving for recognition, significance and stardom.
But in a way, in his little circle, in that world that he was in, he was basically God. I mean, 30s London theater critic. Now, there are people who didn't care about the theater that wouldn't care about him at all. But
he was someone.
Within that realm, he was way more than someone. I mean, back in those times, the critics were bigger stars than the actors.
Yeah, and that still is the case in, New York and in different theater districts, a little bit less so since the advent of the internet. But actors and plays and playwrights used to live and die by waiting for that early morning paper to come out at 4 a.m. and to see what the review was, because that would determine whether or not they had a second night.
Yeah. So
back scratching. How much back scratching would you do? Let's hear it.
Well, I'm probably not killing anyone.
Probably.
And I'm probably not whoring myself out. Probably.
I don't know.
No, I mean, I'd like to keep my stuff above board and legal, but I can even tell you right now, I'm trying to get in as a fantasy sports content creator and in there. And I'm pushing myself probably a little harder than I should because I'm trying to get recognized in that field right now. So, I mean, you've seen me. I'm pretty much running myself ragged lately. And if that wasn't what I was going for, I certainly wouldn't be as much. I think you're willing to stretch yourself to the extremes, but you've just got to be careful not to stretch yourself beyond the extremes. Like at a certain point, you have 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week, and you're not getting any more than that. So, but I'm going to keep everything moral and ethical. I want it. I don't want it that bad.
So if I were Nina, our actress, and I was promised the career of a lifetime, he was going to say, the actress of our generation and all the things that she had been wanting in her acting career. If someone had offered me everything I wanted, professional-wise, whatever my aspiration was, and I just had to do this one thing and seduce this married man with kids, I wouldn't do it. Because any good, any accomplishment, any recognition I had off of that point would just always be tainted. And whether or not I deserved it or not, it would just always feel dirty.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to say I'd fuck that dude. If I'm in her position, she's unmarried, like she's kind of on the outs as a mistress, or she put herself on the outs, but like she's not connected.
You mean if you were Nina, you would?
Yeah,
I thought you would.
If I were Nina, I would not. I am married.
Well, that doesn't matter. In this scenario, there was lots of married people here.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying I do have morals and ethics. But yeah, if I'm her, I would. And I disagree with your point about everything being tainted because...
Well, no, there's nothing to disagree with. I'm speaking for me.
Well, I know, but...
And I say I would feel.
I believe, especially in that world, and even today, acting today, it is insanely competitive, and you are just trying to get that door opened.
Oh, the casting couch was, and I'm sure still is, a real thing.
Because here's the thing. Yeah, I'm sure it is. But let me tell you, no casting couch is going to get you where you want to go if you suck. That casting couch only opens the door so that your talents and your merit can shine.
Well, and I think this is where maybe theater is a little bit different than television or movies or whatnot, because in theater, especially if we're talking in the 1930s, the critic told you how to think. And as the public, you thought this very evolved, sophisticated guide was right. And if they told you something that was rubbish was fantastic, you assumed that, oh, okay, well, it must be above my head, or it must be too sophisticated for me or whatnot, because you were told that it was good. The influence of critics in the past has been amazingly strong.
Yes, but even to the point, you have to be good enough to even be in the position to be in the play for the critic to critique you.
I don't know about that, because if you were the playwright and you could have someone in your play that had received all these rave reviews and you were confident that, hey, if I hire XYZ actress, my play is going to get a great review because that's what she gets, I'm sure you probably hire some less than fabulous actors or actresses. And I'm sure there are many plays in New York and London and other theater districts that have followed that and probably been successful.
That made no sense to me. You said if you could get this wonderful actress that had great reviews.
But the point being is the great reviews.
But you can't
is
get
that
those.
Someone brings the reviews with them.
Yes, and
whether they're good or not.
That is true. But no one starts life with great reviews. Anyone who has great reviews at some point got their first review.
I think in today's day and age in social media, I'm sure babies are getting good reviews on like day 2. I bet babies babies are born into social media accounts nowadays because their parents probably create them for them long before they're ever conceived. And I bet a baby is out there within 1 hour of existing and probably has a good review somewhere. I feel that that's true.
Okay. Well, but my point is everyone has to start somewhere. Like even when you have like nepotism, you have these Hollywood families. You might have people who come later who maybe aren't as good as, say, their parents. But if you're terrible, like
I have to say, Justice Smith is surprisingly good as an actor.
Like, you know what? Here's a good example from the world of sports. Archie Manning was a quarterback years ago, and Archie Manning had at least 3 kids, maybe more. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I can tell you he had Peyton Manning, he had Eli Manning, and he had Cooper Manning. All 3 of them played football. I bet most people would know 2 of them, but not the third. Though Cooper Manning's son, Arch, is tearing it up in college. So funny enough, he's going to get what his dad might get what his dad couldn't. But that's the thing. Peyton and Eli had the talent, and I'm sure they got a little leg up because of the name, the same leg up that Cooper got, but it wasn't enough to keep him around because he didn't have enough talent to do it. And it's the same here, is that you have to have talent to be in the position where someone is going to review you, or else you're a nobody. A playwright's got to take a chance on you. You've never done anything. Okay, I'll give you a role. Somebody saw something in them. So yes, you need to get those reviews. And if you need to open the doors somehow, you open the doors. I mean, you got to have limits, but I'm going to say, just like I said, me as Scott, I'm not sleeping with a dude for multiple reasons, not the least of which being I wouldn't sleep with a dude. But if I'm Nina, I'm at least going there once. If I think that could get me there, I'm at least going there once. Now,
Okay.
if it's ongoing, that could be a problem.
And then lastly, just really briefly here before we wrap up, Jimmy the Critic. So him losing his job, I can say from a what would you do standpoint, I certainly wouldn't murder Nina, but I would probably go through a lot of lengths to keep that cushy job, because you have to think about what life was like in London in 1930, and he was living a lifestyle that he would have no prayer of living were it not for the job he had.
So the Nina thing, the problem with the Nina thing was he wasn't just murdering Nina to keep his job. He was murdering Nina to keep his life. I mean, in a way, because
to shut her up because
she was going to go to the police
or the newspaper.
I mean, it would not have been good. It would have been worse than just losing your job. So he stood to lose a lot more. I honestly, if I'm in his position in the 1930s, like I'm actually in that position.
Yeah, that's what we do here. What would you do, Scott?
I'd drown her. I'd drown her.
Wow, we learned so much about each other during these episodes.
I wouldn't want to. I'm actually spot on with where he was. Like, he didn't want to. He liked her. He did. But she, of her own accord, became a massive, massive threat to him and his lifestyle and his existence. And
that's why I always tell you I'm very particular in what information I reveal to what people, because you just never know when someone's going to turn on you or someone's going to decide that they want to spread whatever secret that you've shared with them. So I'm very discriminating when it comes to that.
I mean, it's better to not get put into that position in the first place, because in the end, Jimmy did put himself in that position by canoodling with a dude in public. Which again, 2024, who cares?
Well, see, but that wasn't even it. His secretary, Tom, was just trying to get him to shut up because he was being drunk and obnoxious and upsetting the cops, and pulled him into a corner and kind of just fell in on him. And then Jimmy was like, oh, well, kiss me. And he was like, fine, I'll kiss you if you'll shut up. And then that's when the cops came. So they weren't even really doing anything. Yeah,
but he did initially put himself in that position. I would not. I would, if I'm in his position, I'm not going to do things that are going to so easily jeopardize my life, and which led to him having to blackmail and led to him having to drown.
Okay, so final thoughts. Anything?
Yeah, sometimes if you get into a hole deep, you're going to have to keep digging, but it's a hell of a lot better to not get in that hole to begin with.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess my takeaway is just the brilliance of my idea that babies should be getting reviews the day that they're born. I kind of like that. I mean, I'd like to look back on a review the day I was born. I don't know. I just said that, and the idea kind of appeals to me. So aspiring parents, would-be parents, be thinking about that. Get your baby's reviews on the first day they're born.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.